Hello, and welcome to Global Data Themes Instant Insights. At Global Data, we define a theme as something that keeps a CEO awake at night, as businesses that invest in important themes will succeed, and those that don't will fail.
Hello, and welcome to our ESG series of Instant Insights. I'm Amalia and Maiden.
I'm Martina Raveni.
And today we're going to be kicking off this new Global Data series by exploring what actually is ESG, discussing why this theme is more than just hype, and taking a brief look at the latest news headlines of interest under the ESG microscope. So Global Data has predicted that ESG is going to become one of the most important strategic themes of the next decade. A pretty bold claim, but it's easy to see why. With climate change and fuel shortages causing direct impacts on the way that we live, everyone is waking up to the reality that something does need to change. But not many people actually understand what this important theme is, or even realise that it encompasses much more than just environmental issues. So first things first, Marty, can you tell us a little bit about what ESG actually is?
Yeah, sure, Amalia. So ESG is the umbrella term for environmental, social and governance factors that impact the future of a company, industry or market. And corporate interest in ESG began to gain momentum in the years immediately following the signing of the 2015 Paris Agreement, and from 2017, mentions of ESG in company filings began to increase very rapidly, as did hiring for ESG-related skills. And this theme began to take a greater seat in boardroom meetings. And a change in government regulation and consumer attitudes is bringing about an urgency towards ESG, particularly in the environmental impacts of a business. Indeed, now companies' performances are measured according to how they do in each of these three factors, and therefore it's really important to have a solid understanding of what they are and how they might impact you or your business. So with this in mind, Amalia, could you tell us more detail what these letters refer to?
Sure, Marty. So first we have the environmental performance. This is a measure of the energy a company consumes, its waste it generates, and its natural resources that it uses. This looks at the consequences of a business's actions for ecosystems and habitats, and the obvious overarching factor of this is the contribution to climate change. The key point here is that companies who perform well in this environmental section are the ones who are actively working towards reducing their negative environmental impact. And then we have the social performance, and this assesses a company's engagement with its workers, customers, suppliers, and the local community. So in short, this is the people part of ESG. It covers important topics such as human rights, diversity and inclusion, and it's this part of ESG that's often overshadowed by the environmental stage. However, ignoring it can risk reputational damage, consumer backlash, and in extreme cases, legal and regulatory penalties. Then finally, we have the governance factors, and this assesses how a company implements its policies and controls to inform their business's decisions, comply with the law, and meet obligations to their stakeholders. In a different move to the past, ESG-related decisions are now greatly impacting the profitability of businesses, whether it be through positive brand association or hefty sanctions. This shift towards a regulatory and financial incentives is a great driver in ensuring that ESG considerations are now at the forefront of corporate decisions. However, unfortunately, the changes expected on this path to an environmentally, socially and governance-positive global market are not something that can be achieved overnight. Businesses are going to need to develop comprehensive, adaptable ESG strategies and educate their employees to navigate through this ever-evolving legal and regulatory landscape.
Thanks very much, Amalia, for this great introduction. So, now that we've set the scene, let's move on to the main ESG headline events that are happening and use this framework to help dissect the key issues.
So the first key event that's been occurring is Chile's plans to nationalise its lithium industry. Now, Marty, could you tell us a bit more about this? Because this was a move that shocked waves through the battery industry, and it's definitely raised alarm bells for the future of the critical minerals market.
Yeah, exactly. So recently, Chile's president, Gabriel Boric, announced that he would nationalize the country's lithium industry in order to boost its economy. And this move wasn't unexpected, we need to say, as Chile's talks of nationalizing its mining industry have been going on since last year. And it has definitely been an interesting move, which I'm guessing will have an impact on the lithium supply chain. And because Chile is among the biggest producers of lithium, and lithium is a metal essential in electric vehicles batteries, a shift in the control of lithium mines towards state-owned companies would certainly have an effect on the current industry framework.
Very much so. However, it'll be interesting to see how much time it actually takes for Chile to transfer the control of their mines to their state-owned new company.
Oh yeah, you raise a very good point. So, yeah, fresh challenges for the EV manufacturers in the years to come, right?
Yeah, definitely. Especially as lithium is currently the key component for most EV batteries. We're seeing that these vehicle manufacturers are having to make big changes to their mineral sourcing and supply chain operations to adapt to South America's disruption of the previous mineral market. Even more than this, these companies are now having to invest heavily in developing new types of batteries for their EVs that are less reliant on these core materials such as lithium and copper. This is aiming to help mitigate these supply chain stresses. And this is a great example of how ESG factors are so important to businesses. As climate change increases, resources are becoming more limited, and this race to a sustainable future is becoming this key focus for many nations. And this is going to mean stricter legislation over mining sourcing, and also greater consequences for many countries if they're not prepared and aware of these important themes.
Yeah, and let me add here, Amalia, that Chile is not the only country that wants greater state control of its resources. I remember indeed that Indonesia also made waves with their heightened control over its resources in 2020 when it banned its nickel exports, and nickel is an essential mineral for steel and battery production. And again, Mexico quite recently, I remember last year, nationalized its own lithium industry. And the reason is exactly the same, that is state control and preventing overexploitation from foreigner companies. And Amalia, these moves are a great example for our podcast to show how these kinds of bans touch all aspects of ESG. Indeed, we have the environmental, because, for example, lithium extraction requires significant water, and very often mines are located in places like deserts where water is scarce. And social, because local communities living close to large mining projects often see their living conditions affected either in a positive or negative ways, and this often depends on governance. In this case, the nationalization of a resource has the potential to impact its economy, but goes further because it could impact the supply chain, or maybe it could slow down production during the adjustment period, or private companies may consider new opportunities outside Chile, and so on.
So do you think that in response, South American countries will start to partner together? And would this be an achievable future for them?
Could be. In this scenario, I wouldn't be surprised if some sort of state partnerships start to come out. I know that there are talks in progress to form a lithium association alongside Argentina, Brazil and Bolivia, and which is a partnership that would put 65% of the world's lithium reserves and 35% of the current production in its control. Can you imagine? An association like this would aim to expand the region's capabilities beyond mining, but to processing, refining, as well as technology development of batteries and EVs. And yeah, I think that this move has the potential to disrupt the current dominance by China, and maybe, who knows, place South America as a strong competitor.
Thanks, Marty. This will definitely be a matter to keep an eye on in the future. So it seems we've headed to the end of our first ESG podcast. We hope you've enjoyed today's episode, and thanks, Marty, for those instant insights on the lithium market in Chile.
Thank you, Amalia.
And from all of us here at Thematic Intelligence, we'll see you next time.